The desert wind blew sharp across the broken land, carrying dust and the smell of metal from the old battlefield. The human soldier pulled his coat tighter and kept walking, his boots crunching against the dry ground. He was tired, hungry, and lost. His radio was dead, and the stars above gave him no comfort. He only wanted shelter for the night. Then he heard it, soft footsteps behind him. He turned quickly, raising his weapon. In the dim moonlight, he saw her, an alien girl, thin, trembling, her skin pale with strange patterns that shimmered faintly. Her clothes were torn and her lips cracked as if she had not eaten for days. She stopped a few feet away, her hands raised, showing she carried no weapon. "Please," her voice was broken, shaking. "Don't shoot." The human kept his weapon steady. He had seen her kind before, had fought them, had lost friends because of them. His first thought was a trap. She looked weak, but maybe others were waiting in the shadows. He glanced around, scanning the rocks, the ruins, the dark corners. Nothing moved except the girl. She stepped closer, her knees almost giving out. "If I bond with you, will you let me in?" Her eyes shone, wide and desperate, glowing faintly with the silver color of her species. The human frowned. Bond? He had heard whispers of this ritual, an alien custom where two shared life energy. It was dangerous, binding, and permanent. He didn't trust her. He didn't trust anything that came from her people. He aimed lower, pointing the barrel at the ground, but not lowering it completely. "Why me?" he asked, his voice hard. "Because they closed their gates on me," she whispered. "My people left me outside, alone. If I bond with you, they cannot refuse me entry. Please, I will die out here." Her body swayed as if her legs could no longer carry her. She clutched her chest, breathing hard, and looked up at him as if his answer was the only thing keeping her alive. The soldier's heart tightened. He hated himself for feeling pity, but he had seen enough war to know real fear when he saw it. Still, his training screamed in his head, "Don't trust, don't believe, don't fall for weakness." A howl echoed across the desert. The sound was deep, haunting, and close. The girl shivered violently. "They come at night," she whispered. "The desert hunters. They smell blood. They eat the flesh of anything that moves. Please." The human cursed under his breath. He could leave her. He could walk away and let the desert take her. That would be safer. But her eyes locked on his, begging, pulling something inside him that refused to turn away. He lowered the weapon at last, but did not holster it. "Bonding," he said slowly. "What does it mean?" She stepped closer, weak but determined. "It means we share life. Your strength will keep me alive. My energy will guard you. It is real, not a trick. Once done, it cannot be broken." The soldier shook his head. It sounded like madness. But then another howl rose, louder this time, joined by more. The girl flinched, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Please, just one chance. I don't want to die out here." For a long moment he stood still, torn between suspicion and something deeper, something human. His people were called weak by the galaxy, soft-hearted, easily broken. But maybe that was also their strength. He saw not an enemy, but a lost soul trembling in the cold. He stepped forward until they stood face to face. The girl looked up at him with wide, shining eyes, her hand lifted slowly, waiting. "If I bond with you, will you let me in?" she repeated, her voice barely more than a whisper now. The human hesitated, then reached out. His rough hand met her fragile fingers. The moment their skin touched, warmth spread through him like fire under his skin. His chest tightened, his vision blurred for a second, and he felt her heartbeat echo in his own. She gasped, her body shuddering as light pulsed faintly between their hands. The bond was real. She looked at him with awe, her fear replaced by something new. "You said yes," she whispered, as if she couldn't believe it. He pulled his hand back, unsettled by the strange energy inside him, but he didn't let her fall. The night grew colder, the howls closer, but they now shared something that even the desert could not touch. "Stay close," he said at last, his voice low but steady, and for the first time since the war began, the alien girl smiled. The girl's steps were unsteady as they walked, her hand still brushing his as if afraid the bond might vanish if she let go. The human felt it too, that strange current pulsing inside him, foreign yet alive. Every beat of his heart now carried an echo of hers, and it unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. He had fought her kind, hated them, and now one of them was inside his very blood. They reached the tall gates of her colony just as the first rays of dawn painted the desert in pale gold. The massive metal doors were closed, guarded by two figures in dark armor. Their sharp eyes landed on the human instantly, narrowing in disgust. One raised a hand. "You bring him here?" The guard spat. "You dare come back bonded with an animal?" The girl straightened, though her body still trembled with weakness. "He saved me. The bond is true." The guards laughed harshly, their voices echoing off the steel walls. "No bond can be true with a human. You shame yourself. Go away before the elders hear of this." The human tightened his grip on his weapon, ready for a fight, but the girl lifted her hand in warning. "Wait," she whispered to him. "The bond will speak for itself." She stepped forward and pressed her palm against the gate. For a moment, nothing happened. Then faint silver light rippled across the door like water. The gate recognized her, but it did not open fully. From within came voices, murmurs, and then footsteps. A group of aliens appeared, their robes flowing, their faces cold. At the center was an elder with silver markings across her forehead, her gaze sharp as a blade. She looked from the girl to the human, and her lips curved in a thin smile. "So," the elder said, her voice calm but heavy, "you return with a stray dog, claiming a sacred bond?" The girl lowered her eyes but did not back down. "It is not a claim, it is real. He is linked to me now. You cannot deny what the bond itself has sealed." The elder's eyes moved to the human, as if peeling back his skin to see the truth beneath. He felt the weight of her stare press against his chest, and the strange warmth inside him flared as if answering the challenge. For a brief second, a glow pulsed faintly from his veins. Gasps rose from the watching crowd. "It is true," one of the younger aliens whispered, disbelief heavy in his tone. The elder's smile vanished. "If it is true, then you both will prove it. No outsider may walk our halls without test, and no traitor to her blood may hide behind false light. If your bond survives what comes, you may enter. If not, you will both die at the teeth of the beast." The human felt the girl's hand tighten on his sleeve, not in fear, but in defiance. She turned her face to him, her silver eyes burning with something new, hope mixed with terror. "They will send us to the trial," she whispered. "No one survives without a real bond." "And if it is real?" he asked quietly. "Then," she breathed, "we live together." For a moment, the human said nothing. The dawn light caught her hair, her broken form, the determination in her gaze. He realized then that his choice the night before had tied him to a path he could not escape. Whatever this trial was, whatever beast they spoke of, he would face it. Not because he trusted her people, not because he cared for their laws, but because when she had begged him not to leave her, he had already decided. He gave a short nod, his jaw set. "Then let them test us." The elder turned sharply, her robes sweeping across the sand. "So be it. Tonight the bond will be judged. Pray the desert takes your bodies whole." The gates opened just wide enough for the girl and the human to be pushed inside, where hundreds of eyes followed their every move. Some watched with disgust, some with fear, and a few with something far more dangerous: curiosity. The girl leaned close to him, her voice barely a whisper. "You shouldn't have said yes, but thank you." He glanced down at her, and though he said nothing, his silence carried an answer she understood. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone. The air inside the colony was thick with tension. Every corner they passed, every hallway they walked, eyes followed them. The human could feel the weight of their stares, sharp and cutting, as though each gaze wanted to strip him apart. Whispers floated through the air, words he could not understand, but tones that told him everything: mockery, suspicion, and anger. The girl walked close to him, her steps slow but steady, her shoulders pulled back in defiance. She was weak from days outside the gates, yet she refused to bend. More than once, someone hissed at her, calling her traitor, outcast, disgrace. She did not respond. She only gripped her arm tighter, her silver markings glowing faintly, proof of the bond still alive between them. At the training courtyard, a group of young warriors blocked their path. Their eyes burned with hate as they stared at the human. One stepped forward, tall and broad, carrying a blade across his back. He sneered. "So, this is your bond? This thing?" He jabbed a finger at the human's chest. "You shame us all." The girl lifted her chin. "He is not a thing. He is my bond. Mock me if you want, but you will not touch him." The courtyard erupted in laughter. One of the warriors leaned close to whisper loudly enough for all to hear. "Perhaps she binds to him because no one else would take her. Weak blood seeks weak flesh. The human's hand tightened around the strap of his weapon. He wanted to hit them, to show them he wasn't weak, but the girl gave a small shake of her head. Not now, her eyes warned. The warriors stepped aside, letting them pass, but their laughter followed like a shadow. The human's chest burned with anger. He had fought enemies before, killed in battle, but this kind of cruelty was different. It was sharp, quiet, meant to wound without blood. Later, they were brought before the Elder Council. Tall figures in long robes sat in a circle, their faces hard and distant. The girl knelt, lowering her head. The human stood stiff, refusing to bow, his instincts screaming against submission. An elder spoke, his voice echoing in the chamber. You bring an enemy into our walls. You claim bond with one who killed our kind. Why should we believe you? The girl raised her head slowly. Because the bond speaks for itself. Because he did not leave me to die when all of you closed the gates. The chamber fell silent. Some elders shifted uncomfortably. The human's jaw tightened at her words. He had not saved her for honor, only because he couldn't turn away. Yet hearing her say it like that stirred something inside him he could not explain. Another elder leaned forward, her silver eyes piercing. If the bond is true, then it will endure the trial of the beast. If it is false, you both will be torn apart before dawn. The human felt the girl shiver beside him, but she lifted her chin again, strong despite the fear in her veins. We accept. The human glanced at her in surprise. He had not agreed to anything, yet here she was, speaking for both of them with a steady voice. He opened his mouth to argue, but then he saw her hands trembling in her lap, saw the way she forced herself to look unafraid in front of her people. She was terrified, but she would rather die than bow to their mockery. He closed his mouth again, his jaw tight. Against his will, a small spark of respect lit inside him. The council dismissed them with a wave, guards escorting them out. As they walked through the long halls, the girl's breath shook. She finally whispered, I had no choice. They would never accept you unless we prove it. If we fail. She did not finish. The human studied her pale face, the faint glow of the bond pulsing on her skin, and for the first time, he realized she was not only fighting for survival. She was fighting for him too. The trial grounds were outside the colony walls, a circle of stone carved deep into the desert floor. Torches burned around its edge, their flames fighting against the night wind. The human stood inside with the girl at his side, the bond glowing faintly between their clasped hands. Around them, a crowd gathered, their faces eager, curious, waiting to see failure. No one cheered for them, they wanted blood. A great gate creaked open at the far side of the circle. From the darkness beyond, a growl rumbled, low and deep, shaking the stones underfoot. The girl's breath hitched, her silver eyes wide. The next beast, she whispered. It can smell fear. If our bond is false, it will break us apart. The human tightened his grip on her hand. Then, don't let go, he muttered. The beast stepped into the torchlight. Its body was huge, twisted with muscle, scales glinting like black steel. Its eyes glowed red, and jagged tusks curled from its mouth. When it roared, the crowd fell silent, every flame flickering as if bowing to the sound. The girl's legs trembled, and he felt it through the bond, her fear pouring into him like cold water. The beast sniffed the air, its head turning toward them. The human forced his breathing calm, steady, letting his heartbeat slow. Look at me, he said firmly. She dragged her eyes from the beast to his face, shivering. It knows I'm afraid. Then borrow me, he answered. Take my strength. She didn't understand at first, but the bond pulsed suddenly, his steady heartbeat pouring into her chest, pushing back against the panic inside her. Her breath steadied, though her hands still shook. The beast roared again and charged. The ground shook as it thundered forward, faster than its size should allow. The human yanked the girl aside just as the beast's tusks slashed past, the air splitting with their sharpness. They rolled in the dust, the human shoving her behind him as he drew his blade. The next beast turned, its nostrils flaring, its red eyes narrowing. It lunged again. The human braced himself, swinging his weapon, sparks flying as steel met scale. The force knocked him back, pain shooting through his arm. The bond flared hot, and he felt her gasp. The same pain flashing through her body, too. She cried out, clutching his sleeve. We'll both break if you fight alone. The beast circled, growling, waiting for weakness. The human spat blood and growled back. Then fight with me. Her hands glowed with silver light, trembling but fierce. She pressed her palm against his back, and suddenly he felt stronger. Her energy surged into him, pushing past the exhaustion, sharpening his vision. Their bond burned brighter, visible now to all, a living thread of light between them. The next beast roared and leapt again, claws outstretched. This time the human moved faster, ducking low, dragging the girl with him as he rolled beneath the monster's chest. The blade in his hand slashed across its belly, silver sparks mixing with black blood. The beast howled in rage, staggering. The crowd gasped. No outsider had ever wounded it. The girl's voice rose, stronger now, echoing in his mind as much as in his ears. Together! The human didn't answer with words. He charged forward, pulling her with him, their bond blazing bright enough to cast shadows. The beast swung its massive tusks, but the girl's light flared, guiding his strike. He leapt high, slamming the blade deep into the beast's throat. A roar split the night, then silence. The next beast collapsed, its body shaking the ground as it fell. Dust rose around them, choking the air, but when it cleared, the human still stood, the girl clutching his hand, their bond glowing brighter than ever. The crowd was silent at first, stunned, then whispers spread like fire. The bond had survived. The impossible had happened. The girl leaned against him, exhausted but smiling faintly through her tears. "We proved it," she whispered. The human's chest heaved, blood dripping from his arm, but he only nodded. His eyes swept the crowd, daring them to deny what they had seen. For the first time, he wasn't just an outsider. He was something far more dangerous, a bonded one. The silence after the beast's fall did not last. A sharp voice broke through the crowd, filled with venom. It was trickery. One of the warriors from the courtyard pushed forward, his hand gripping the hilt of his blade. His eyes burned with hatred as they locked on the human. No human could endure that trial. You fed the beast poison, or you cheated with false light. The crowd murmured, tension twisting like a storm. The elders remained still, their silver eyes unreadable. The human felt the girl stiffen beside him. She whispered quickly, "They won't accept us. Not all of them. Be ready." The warrior did not wait. He lunged, blade flashing in the torchlight. The human shoved the girl behind him, raising his own weapon just in time to block the strike. Sparks flew, steel clashing against alien alloy. The impact rattled through his bones, but his grip held. Gasps rose from the crowd. The duel was not allowed, yet no one moved to stop it. Some even leaned forward eagerly, wanting to see the human bleed. The warrior pressed forward, his strength monstrous, his blade heavy. "You are nothing," he hissed. "You taint her blood with your filth." He forced the human back step by step. The girl cried out, her markings blazing. "Stop! The bond is real." But the human's jaw was set. He pushed against the warrior's blade with raw strength, forcing him back. The bond pulsed again, light flaring along his arms. He felt her energy pouring into him, steady and warm. It sharpened his focus, kept his muscles from breaking. The warrior's eyes widened. Impossible. The human twisted, slamming the hilt of his weapon into the warrior's chest. The alien stumbled back, rage twisting his face. With a roar, he raised his blade high for a killing strike. Before he could strike, the girl stepped between them, her voice ringing clear across the circle. "Enough!" The light of the bond flared so bright it lit the night sky. Everyone froze, their faces bathed in silver glow. "If you strike him, you strike me. His blood is mine now. His life is tied to mine. Kill him, and you kill me too." The warrior faltered, his blade trembling. The crowd fell silent again, shocked at her defiance. The elders exchanged glances, their eyes sharp. The elder with silver across her forehead finally rose, her voice calm but edged like a knife. "Then so be it. The bond is true. Let none challenge it again." The warrior's blade lowered slowly, fury burning in his eyes, but powerless against the law of their people. He spat on the ground and stormed away, leaving only silence behind him. The human lowered his weapon, his chest heaving with breath. He looked at the girl, her face pale but her eyes blazing with determination. She had saved him, not with steel, but with the truth of their bond. The crowd began to murmur again, but now the tone had changed. Curiosity, disbelief, even fear. No one looked at him as a mere outsider anymore. The girl reached for his hand, her grip firm despite her trembling fingers. "They will never forgive us easily," she whispered. "But you are part of me now. They cannot take that away." The human studied her, the glow of the bond still pulsing faintly between them. For the first time, he realized he no longer stood alone in enemy ground. Together, they had survived the beast. Together, they had faced betrayal. And together, they would face whatever came next. The days that followed were filled with stares and whispers. Wherever the human walked, eyes followed him, some filled with hate, others with quiet wonder. Children peered around corners, pointing at the strange glow that sometimes flickered beneath his skin. Warriors muttered as he passed, their hands brushing the hilts of their blades. To them, he was a danger, an insult to tradition. Yet no one dared attack openly again, for the bond was undeniable. The girl stayed close to him, guiding him through the maze-like colony. At night, when the torches burned low, they sat together in silence. She taught him words from her language, the ones her people used for survival and family. He stumbled through the sounds, his rough voice clumsy. But when he spoke her name correctly for the first time, she smiled in a way that made him forget the cold walls around them. But peace never lasted long. One evening, the elder summoned them both to the inner chamber. The same council who had ordered the trial now sat in a circle of shadows, their faces unreadable. The elder with silver markings leaned forward, her eyes sharp as ever. "The beast proved your bond," she said, her voice cold. "But proof is not enough. A bond with a human is dangerous. It changes what should not be changed. We must test its depth." The human's jaw tightened. He didn't like the word test. It always meant danger. The elder raised her hand, and a guard stepped forward carrying a bowl filled with black liquid. The scent was bitter, stinging his nose. "This," she explained, "is the draught of truth. You will both drink. If your bond is shallow, it will shatter. If it is deep, you will survive. If it is false, one of you will die." The girl's breath caught, and the human felt it through the bond, a flicker of fear, a rush of cold. He placed a hand on hers, steadying her without words. They were given the bowl. The liquid shimmered in the torchlight, thick and dark. The girl looked at him, searching his face. He gave the smallest nod, and together they drank. The taste was fire. It burned down his throat, searing his chest. His vision blurred and his knees buckled. The girl gasped beside him, clutching her stomach. The bond flared wildly, heat rushing between them, twisting pain into light. His heartbeat hammered in his ears, but he felt hers too, racing alongside his. Voices echoed around them, but they were distant now. The chamber faded, replaced by a strange, endless space of silver light. He saw her standing across from him, her body glowing, her eyes wide. She reached out, and he felt her touch without moving. "Do you see it too?" she whispered. He nodded. "The bond." Their hands met in that space, and the light surged brighter, wrapping around them, binding them tighter than before. It was no longer just survival, no longer just desperation. He could feel her thoughts, her fear, her hope, and she felt his doubt, his anger, his stubborn resolve. The light burst outward, shattering the illusion. He collapsed to his knees on the chamber floor, gasping for breath, the taste of smoke in his mouth. The girl lay beside him, weak but alive. Their hands were still clasped. The bond still burned. The elders leaned back, their faces pale, their silence heavy. For the first time, the human saw fear in their eyes. The elder with silver markings finally spoke, her voice lower than before. "It endures, stronger than any we have seen." The girl pulled herself closer to him, her head resting against his shoulder. Her whisper trembled but carried weight. "They can test us 100 times. We will not break." The human's arm wrapped around her without thought. He looked into the circle of elders, his eyes steady, unafraid. Then stopped trying. The night after the trial of truth, the colony buzzed with uneasy silence. Whispers traveled faster than the wind, spreading through every hall and courtyard, about the bond, about the human who had survived where no one should have. Some called it a curse, others a miracle. But no one denied it anymore. The girl walked beside him through the dim corridors, her hand brushing his, the bond glowing faintly between them. She no longer lowered her eyes when others stared. For the first time in her life, she held her head high. The bond gave her strength, and through her, it gave him a place in a world that had once rejected them both. Yet peace was fragile. That evening, the Elder Council gathered the people in the grand square. Torches flickered, casting long shadows across the stone walls. The elder with silver markings stood at the center, her voice sharp enough to cut the silence. The bond is proven, stronger than any we have witnessed. But it is also dangerous. A human tied to our blood threatens the order of our people. If we accept this, our laws will change forever. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some shouted their agreement. Others stayed silent, uncertain. The human felt the girl's hand tighten in his, her pulse racing with fear. Then, from the front of the crowd, an old voice rose. An elder, unlike the others, his body frail but his eyes clear. He leaned on a staff as he spoke. Perhaps it is time the laws did change. For centuries, we called humans weak, fragile, unworthy. Yet this one has stood where even our strongest would fall. He carries our daughter's bond as his own. If strength is what we honor, then we cannot deny what we have seen with our own eyes. The murmurs grew louder, divided. The human felt every eye turn to him. He was not one for speeches, not one to beg for acceptance. He only raised his hand, letting the bond's glow shimmer into the night. The light spread between him and the girl, pure and undeniable. "She begged me not to leave her," he said simply, his voice rough but steady. "I stayed. That is all." The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled, stepping forward so all could see the silver light dancing across her skin. "He did more than stay. He gave me life when even my own people would not. If that makes me a traitor, then I will never regret it." The crowd erupted, half in anger, half in awe. The council could not silence them all. The human knew the fight was not over, that hatred and envy would follow them. But when he looked down at her, fragile, fierce, bound to him, he felt something stronger than doubt. She leaned against him, whispering words only he could hear. "We don't need them all to accept us. We only need to keep walking forward." And with the bond burning steady between them, they stepped out of the square together, not as outcast and human, but as something new, something neither world had ever seen before.